So welcome everyone. I believe that collaboration is a new competitive advantage, and collaboration is something which per se, I think every single digital company or a non-digital company will have to look at to sort of sustain and grow. So we've got an awesome panel available with us today. We have VT from E91, we have Tejas from Easy Rewards, Neha from Clovia, I'm Vivek from ProfitWheel as well as from Dentsu. So what I would like to do is, to start the panel, I would just like each of the panelists to just give a background of themselves, and then I'll just set a context of the discussion. Should we start with you, VT?
Sure. Hello everyone. I'm VT Bharadwaj. I'm a partner at A91 Partners. We are an investment firm focused on fast-growing companies, which are either venture-backed or which have bootstrapped their way to some meaningful scale. And our excitement is in partnering with companies in the journey from the 50, 100 crore to the 1,000 crores. So we have almost 10 portfolio companies now, and we started investing around 2 years ago from our first fund, which was a $350 million fund. Prior to that, I was at Sequoia for almost a decade. And all through, I would say, over the last 10 years, my passion and focus has been on consumer brands, on areas in financial services, consumer tech, and pharma healthcare. Those have been the areas where me and our team has spent a lot of time, and that's what we continue to kind of focus on, at A91. So thank you. Looking forward to the discussion.
Awesome, VT. Thank you. Hopefully, Neha's video will come on by time Tejas finishes with his introduction. So Tejas, please, a little bit on Easy Rewards and your introduction.
Vivek, thanks for setting up this session, and I'm hoping to have a great time for the next 1 hour. Just to give you, I'm one of the co-founders of Easy Rewards. This is the 10th year of Easy Rewards as we speak. And we've gone through ups and downs of the journey, but a great mechanics where we help retail brands, pretty much anyone B2C, to help them understand who their customer is and is there a mechanics to bring them back, right? So the whole journey of that customer is mapped from the system itself. And our vision has been that can we help brands create the true single view of the customer with a single inventory and push the real-time communication to the right channel, to the right customer at the right time. Right? We've been invested by Walmart just last year. Luckily, it happened at the right time, just before COVID. And we've had a journey where we've helped a lot of retail across industries to take their journey forward. Myself, I've done my master's in computer science, computer engineering from Syracuse, working with BNP Paribas before I started the journey here. And today we stand at about 230 employees, and we're working with about 170 of the top brands globally. Managing over about 220 million customers, not only knowing who they are and where they're shopping, but also knowing what they're shopping at, right? So that's the part of the mechanics of where we stand today.
Awesome. Yeah. Neha?
I may look like a bit like Harry Potter because there's power cut at my end. So I think I'll give a next best view, which is the view of my store instead. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. I'm Neha, founder of Clovia. It's a women's at first lingerie, but now a lifestyle brand. We sell lingerie, loungewear, a lot of categories, and recently we entered skin and hair care segment as well. So far we have serviced almost 3 million women, and today very happy to see that one Clovia product gets sold every 3 seconds. So it's been a good journey, and I'm very happy to be here. Personally, I'm a math graduate and MBA, started my career in advertising and got into digital space early on. So caught the wave early on, I think. Caught the wave or the bug, I don't know what to say, which way to classify it. So thanks for inviting me, Vivek.
Awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have this 4-5 slides of a presentation, which basically I'm going to set the context for collaboration, and then we can continue our discussion. So. Yeah. So basically, a little bit about myself. I've co-founded this company called ProfitWheel. We believe that 20% of the customers give you 200% of your profits. And I think basically building a SaaS platform that optimizes media based on this algorithm of focusing on niche customers who have higher CLV, I think is a very effective way to optimize media. So I believe that this is the future of media optimization, and hopefully we can make a difference. So I think one of the things that one of our stakeholders and investors is Netcore and Rajesh Jain, and he did a Jim Collins course last month. So for about 6 weeks, we were doing a Jim Collins course across all his books. And I think the concept of flywheel has always fascinated me. And what I found was that, very interestingly, in his theory, he doesn't talk about a flywheel between two companies. It always talks about an Apple and iTunes, or a Kindle and books for Amazon. But what if you could actually create a flywheel between two companies, and where both the companies improve each other? So, in the very early stage, we came across this company called Flow.io, which basically takes domestic luxury brands and takes them global. So they do the logistics, they do the payment gateway integration, they do the duty payments, they do all the things till the time the product is delivered at home. And what we found was that they were struggling in demand generation in those countries. So every client they have, they move them in 10, 20 countries, and we can actually demand generate in those 20 countries. So this has become a sort of flywheel between Flow.io and us as ProfitWheel, where we are improving them because we are able to generate more business for them across all the countries, and they are able to use that to acquire more customers. And every customer they acquire, they are moving into 10 countries, so we get 10 sort of customers in 10 countries. So I said that, said the base that can we think of these kind of ideas that allow us to create a flywheel between different companies that we are participating or partnering with, where we improve them and they improve us. I think this concept has been there forever, right? So I've been a part of Dentsu for long. So the curated suit system, in some cases, it's considered the uncompetitive or as a competitive advantage, which makes, let's say, it almost borders around some of the illegal systems in the world also. But Toyota has used it very effectively. In the early days, Reliance helped manufacturers set up their own factories who are supplying material to them, so they could get it at a better price, and they could actually provide capital to these manufacturers. Fintech in India is collaborating a lot. I think the digital ecosystem is going to grow substantially. What's happened in China has happened in Silicon Valley, is going to happen in India. And I think all of us entrepreneurs have to come together of how we can help each other grow. And digital allows us to create global companies very quickly, and COVID has actually provided a tailwind in this. So I think one has to study the system and see, are there any opportunities? So I'm a part of the startup committee of IMAI. We are starting this initiative called Circle Initiative, which creates collaboration between entrepreneurs. So I think we all have to take steps in this direction. And I think VT, all of you guys, we can do so much by creating an ecosystem that helps all entrepreneurs and probably all capital firms. The last thing I want to talk about is this concept called constellation theory. There is a company in Canada called, I think, Constellation Software, which acquires, I think, 2 companies every month. So what we found was that I think Netcore has invested in us, but also in Easy Rewards and some of the other companies, where all of us can collaborate and solve a problem that one single company cannot solve. So basically what I've seen is that some problems are just too large for one company to solve, and we can come together to solve that problem. And then basically what happens is 1 + 1 truly becomes 11. So we have a lot of examples. I think Tejas and ProfitWheel have been talking, and I'll share some examples on that. But we partner with online sales and so many other companies, and all of us can come together and solve these big problems that one of us could not solve. I think the biggest need for collaboration actually is the pain that ProfitWheel is trying to solve. So almost 15 years ago, I used to work with a bank. And what we would do is that we would capture the search string the user was using and transfer that search string to the call center. And the call center would use that search string to make that call more effective and convert that lead into a sale. So if a person was searching for a quick loan, then we would focus on the speed of the disposal. If the person was searching for something called Novo chairs, these are dental chairs that cost 15 lakh rupees. So that was probably a dental practitioner trying to set up a clinic. We would actually sell the idea that we can give him discounts on 35 other products that he will need in his clinic. Surprisingly, 15 years have passed. today also the ads that we see, the user information that we collect over a period of 1 month when the user is in the awareness and desire phase is not transferred to the MarTech world. So this is, I think, the biggest pain that the industry faces. And this is the collaboration between the AdTech world and the MarTech world is what ProfitWheel is trying to solve. So basically, this is the biggest challenge we have. So we build this tech which actually solves this problem. So I'm going to just stop my share screen and not go deeper into the tech. But basically, I think if the AdTech world can talk effectively to the MarTech world, I think that will be the biggest problem we can solve and bring about tremendous efficiencies across both the platforms, both the AdTech platform and the MarTech platform. So on this note, let me start off with, I think basically VT, because that's the way I see my the panel in my screen. So VT, what is your thoughts when you're investing in companies? Has collaboration been a metric that you see that, okay, this company that I'm investing in will collaborate with either my portfolio or some of the other companies that I know, and collectively they can get a competitive advantage? Any thoughts, any stories you have on this would be lovely to share here.
Yeah. No, look, I think, collaboration as an instinct for the founder is very important as we even do our evaluation, because we do see that the most successful founders, have the uncanny ability to not only get the best out of investors, but to get the best out of, I would say, the investor's portfolio. And they're always looking for ideas, and they're very quick in assessing which ones make sense for them and which ones, are ones where if they press the pedal, they can have some meaningful impact. So we have seen, I would say, all sorts of collaboration, across, my portfolio experience, be it at A91 or at Sequoia prior to that. And I would categorize them at, I would say, 3 basic levels of collaboration. I would say the absolute minimum has been just the ability to quickly share, service providers, service feedback, quickly get a sense of, who else in the ecosystem has been helpful for them. And this has typically happened in recruiting, in marketing services, like the way you're saying, for them to quickly get a sense of, who are the people to talk to, who are the guys who we can leverage more, who are people who have more experience in what we're trying to do. So I would say that's the very, very base level, brass tacks type of collaboration, right? The second level of collaboration has been where actually people have gotten together to do more, I would say, things where there is operational requirement or operational integration, right? And I'll give you a very interesting example, because it's the most substantial, but because it is the most recent. Like yesterday, I got a photograph from, Vinitha, who's a founder in Sugar, saying that, hey, we opened our first high street store. And, she said, and she was like, I'm very excited that we've done it because, in collaboration with Go Colors, which is actually a portfolio company where I was on the board of, and I had made an introduction maybe 2 years ago. And suddenly they discovered that, in certain high street areas, it made sense for them. They were very complementary and from a product perspective. And they said, hey, you know what, we can share our space because either our stores are not that efficient, or we think that we can both get a better deal if we negotiate together. So that is, I would say, the second level of some sort of operational collaboration, where it is very difficult actually. So, so kudos to them for actually trying it out, and fantastic that they actually managed to get started, because it's interesting, because if this works out, they know that it's not 2 high street, but maybe 100 high street that they can do together, right? And it's a very powerful, it's a powerful way to kind of collaborate. That's the second. The third kind of collaboration, where I do think that we have success is harder to get, but it has been possible, has been where, has been, let's say, in marketing spend, where, if you've had 3-4 companies in a particular year, spend together, it has been possible to at least, provide a similar framework for negotiation and try to optimize. It's hard to buy together, but what is certainly possible is for lots of information flow to be there when those negotiations are happening. And this is something that I have seen, when meaningful ad spend are happening, even in something like TV, right? A very, very traditional medium. I have seen that it is possible to collaborate, but for that you also need a person. You need a person who can kind of do it and kind of work with the various companies, let's say in a portfolio, get the data, share it, and then in one-off cases, even maybe drive negotiation to kind of get the best deal. So we've seen all 3. And I do think that therefore this notion of you getting more out of other founders in the ecosystem and other founders in portfolio of, let's say, an investor whom you have signed up to partner with. I think both are very real and can be quite impactful.
I think amazing thoughts, PT. I think, one of the thoughts that was coming to my mind right now while you were speaking was that if a person has, let's say, a $300 million fund, it'd be interesting to allocate, a certain percentage of that fund, not as a management fee, but towards the fund for collaboration. So you put in $10 million into building a CDP, which is common across portfolios, or building team members who want to help all these guys. Because I think the biggest challenge is, right, because everything has to be done in that 2%, the 220 sort of a ratio, what happens is that if a CDP takes $2 million to build, it's very difficult because who's going to invest in it, right? And I think that 2 million could actually make a multiplier on the 300 million. So the thing is, it would make sense, but the thing is, who's going to fund it, right? So it'll be an interesting thought. I don't know what changes.
My early thoughts on that, I think it has to be funded by the manager. I think we have to have this is not a business, especially on the private side, that this is every fund is effectively a 12-year investment cycle, right? 10 to 12 years. And therefore, nobody is doing this for just the first 12 years. And therefore, I think it is very important that you make the investment. And the investment could be in the form of people, could be in the form of partnerships and relationships, and certainly can be in the form of technology as well. I think the technology investment we make is maybe more new and people are not familiar with it, and therefore they have to kind of do the learning to be able to do it. But I can certainly see, like, in people and all, we absolutely do. Like, for example, there are so many cases where the first search, we have signed up, a couple of partnerships on the marketing side and a couple of partnerships on the recruiting side, where we say, hey, look, why don't you use this particular service provider, because we have negotiated with them, to go ahead and make your offer, because we think it'll be cheaper. And in some cases, especially in some companies who may not be convinced that, hey, this really will add value, we've even gone and said, the first one, we will take the tab, because we think it can make a big difference for you if you use this kind of a service partner to get your marketing thinking or your recruiting thinking. And we think it is valuable. Now, we know that you are sensitive about it, typically either from a cost perspective. And we say, hey, we take the tab, because unless you try it out, how will you know that this can actually be better? I think on services, and I think on investment at the individual level, I think it is easier. I would say it's almost industry practice is what I would argue. If it is not yet, people should be doing it. I think the part where it is new and where I've not seen people do, where at least I hope that we can, as A91, be more of a pioneer, is making these kind of technology investments, where, can you do something which actually can be used more and more by the portfolio, and how do you do that? And how do you do that in a way where companies are comfortable, especially something like CDP data, right? Where companies may think of it as extremely confidential, and they may say, I don't want to share this. So what is the best way to do that? I think there's early thinking there, and I think it's not yet translated into how it will get executed. But otherwise, the principle that investment firms should invest, in the portfolio, outside of the money that they invest in the portfolio, I think it is pretty stark and evident. And if people are not doing it, then it's a matter of concern.
Cool. Thanks. So, Neha, I think we've been discussing the two things that I would love to share and discuss with you. One was that how being a part of a portfolio and investors, how the collaboration has happened, where as a portfolio view, what kind of collaboration you've seen. And second thing is, I think you mentioned something very interesting where you've collaborated to set up sort of pop-up shops in residences, which sound like a very good idea of collaboration. Would love to sort of hear your thoughts on it. So you're on mute. This is the most powerful statement of 2020. You're on mute.
And it still happens. What we did interestingly in offline retail specifically, because we went through this whole cycle of very poor footfalls, and even with negotiated rents, it wasn't really working out at malls or previously high footfall, crowded high streets. And we wanted to expand still. We still believe that our stores are doing well, and we wanted to expand. And last year as well as this year, we signed up 2 stores just in April. So we teamed up with some brands like ours with similar women user base, and we decided to create these shopping hubs, just 4 or 5 store sort of a patch in between residential areas, Because over past 1 year, that's what we found out. We found out that some of our stores in residential markets had been losing footfall to new malls, upcoming malls, or shinier streets coming nearby. But post COVID, their footfall again recovered, and a lot of brands had exited that market, and maybe we would have too in some time. But now the store is performing well, so we started to again speak to fellow brands and say, come back to this market. Similarly, in Kanpur, we are creating a patch, 5 brands together, creating a patch so that that market booms up. Because I think people would like to shop in lesser, less crowd environment, something closer to them, and not, sort of gain back whatever we lose from losing out in malls and such. So this, let's see how this experiment works out. It's quite similar to what VD said about Sugar Cosmetics and Go Colors sharing a store space. We are saying let's just put stores together at one place and have do common marketing and pull people here. So that's what we're doing in offline. In online, of course, there is a COVID taught us a lot. I think it made us think on our feet, and we pretty much did everything. So from our portfolio or our investors' portfolio companies, of course, there was a lot of collaboration. I remember in April, we had only a small part of our offering intimate or personal care, or rather intimate hygiene products as essentials, and lingerie or underwear was still not tagged as essential. So we were sitting here twiddling our thumbs what to do. And so we spoke with Purple, and we got some of their merchandise selling on Clovia platform. So that sort of helped us keep the traction on. And also we supplied, because we have our manufacturing base and we had started manufacturing PPs right in the beginning. So we could supply that to their B2B or wholesale base. So there was a very easygoing collaboration there. Similarly, Bewakoof.com, which does a lot of casual wear, and the casual wear sales were sort of tapering at that moment. And we spoke to them, and we had a lot of work from home, sleepwear and casual at home clothing. So we, again, both the brands gained. We gained from their traffic, and they had merchandise which was sellable at that moment, because every brand has some latency to build their product portfolio. So that's what happened.
And a couple of examples where from the private equity and portfolio view, how has collaboration work between the portfolio companies, and any good ideas or stories that you can share, where I know Arun is very, very hands-on and keeps on helping. Even right on the morning he messaged me, please send me the link down to attend the webinar. I said, like,
yes, Mr. Gupta, of course, he's among all his mentee companies. I think one interesting thing he did recently for Skincraft, which is a skincare brand, they wanted to target working women and men on professional networks. So they said, I mean, of course, they had been working with Bollywood, but they started to target founders like us, and they got me also on camera speaking about the campaign. And the idea is that if there are women who are aspiring for entrepreneurship, then they should be able to connect with the campaign through me. So I think that was a completely unique thing, not done so far. And I think they got some hundreds of founders like us. I mean, it looks like a big campaign.
Yeah, I am my type.
I am my type, yes.
So actually, one interesting story I can share is, right, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they take capital, it's not what the person who provides the capital can do for you, is what you can get out of them. So, one of my investors earlier was that I would go and sit in his office 2 hours every week. And over a period of 1 year, I must have spent 150 odd hours with him, right? And he was saying that I have 20 investments, but I think the amount of time that I've spent with you over a period of time is more than all the remaining 19 put together. Because I would go and say, I would address him, uncle, say, like, isse baat karni hai, can you introduce me? And he would just pick up the phone. He'd say, "Haan, mera beta aa raha hai, milne aa raha hai." So basically, what would happen is, every time I would go there, I would get some business, I would get some connection, I would get some person I can hire. So I think, I think entrepreneur realizes what you get out of the network, even when you sell to a company like Dentsu, is what you can get out of Dentsu rather than what Dentsu is going to give you. I think a lot of times we sit out here and say somebody's going to help us. But I think what we get out of it is the way to approach this entire thing.
Yes. Good investors, I think, do that for their companies. And we are also blessed to like that. We've also accessed their phone book with absolutely shameless when you want something to be done with their contacts.
So What do you, Tejas? I think you had some great examples during COVID where you actually got competing brands also to come together. Would love to hear your thoughts on what happened and how you've used it to your competitive advantage.
So, I mean, like anyone else, obviously, COVID was a bad time, and we've got a lot of retail working. But good for us a little bit is because CRM became very critical, right? And every brand was like, the only thing I can do is not market to a new customer because we don't have the budget, but I would want to see how I can get my customer back, right? Actually, there are two stories. One of it is a new innovation we built up. The other is the collaboration part of it. So we've got some brands where it was completely shut down for the period, right? And they were saying that we have a huge base of customer which could become complementing to any of the brands would want to function. So one is obviously we help them do co-marketing across the brands, which enable them to at least get the ball rolling during that April, May, June, July period. The other thing we did was we run a lot of the large grocery chains where we run CRM for them. The big issue that was happening for them was there were no people who were able to deliver or even be in stores because a lot of them had run back to home. So a lot of my fashion brands where people were still on payroll, but they were not able to pay them the full salary. So I told them that, why don't you get your people or loan them to the grocery guys, at least for that period of time. And that could help it, right? And it was a brilliant means where companies were really collaborating to that means where the people who never sold grocery are actually selling groceries for that period of time, right? So I thought that was a great moment where we were able to collaborate with brands across functions to get that going. The other thing that came out was, again, a lot of the stores were shut, and we work with a lot of offline retail, almost about 18,000 at this point. And the store staff knows their customer best, right? And the brands were telling us that is there a means whereby I can create a platform where I can get these store staff to interact with the customer on WhatsApp and get a mechanics where the buying can take place from the store and get the inventory movement from store to home. So that in fact came out. We built out a whole platform called Shopster during COVID in the period where everyone's working from home. And we said that let's pick up the challenge on building up a platform which can become not offline online, but a combination of offline online. And I'm proud to say that a lot of the large brands globally have started consuming this platform. More. I mean, we only thought that the experience was only for COVID, but now we are actually seeing use cases beyond COVID. It's a mechanics where you can do a live video call. The interactions are controlled from the store staff from an app. The customer can be on Facebook. They could be on a WhatsApp. They could be like you're doing something in Indonesia, where the customer is on a line or a WeChat, and the communication is real time, right? So whatever the means where they were, so we basically have done is we've organized a thing which was unorganized for so many years, where anyways the store staff would reach out to the best customer and say that, sir, आपके लिए ना ये T-shirt है, नया आया है, आप खरीदिए, right? So, which was, unofficially run. Now we built out a platform which is officially run by the brand, for the brand, and it is enabling the staff which are sitting at home to communicate to their best customer in vernacular languages, right? It's actually the stats which we are seeing is that people who are actually on WhatsApp, or women who are on WhatsApp, or men who are on WhatsApp, have never shopped online commerce. Because these are the people who've gone to store and shopped only, right? So they've never had the comfort of going online and shopping. Luckily, COVID happened and they've understood Amazon, etc. But they still like that, the touch and feel, the guy doing that assisted shopping, saying that I will help you buy. So this platform has enabled them to really come together to make that happen. So we are betting large on making that platform big. But it has really opened up a communication channel between a store staff and the customer. It become a mechanics where a lead is coming in, from a WhatsApp, and they're communicating. They're doing a live video call and showing them the live store inventory and making that purchase happen. So that was one huge solution that came out during COVID, and I think it would not have worked without collaboration, right? And the inputs have been great from the brands. Luckily, all the brand owners were sitting home again doing nothing, right? So they're like, let's figure out on how do we get the sale happening at the store by by channels which are never been tried before or have been tried but forgotten. So that gave us a lot of input from them, to innovate the solution quickly, and we were able to work with them to really collaborate to take that solution to the next level. So that's one thing that really came out of COVID brilliantly, and we are hoping a lot of adoption of that solution to take place from them.
So awesome. I think overall, this is one area that I've also actually wondered. Some of the collaboration being offline and online world has not happened effectively. Even in fact, I've spent 20 plus years in digital advertising, and it's almost the offline guys consider digital as competition and vice versa. So the
in fact, even within brands, right? Online is a separate channel, and it's a separate stock. So the offline stock does not match to the online stock, and there is no single inventory view at all. So when we started doing this, a lot of the large brands did not even have 95% of the inventory photographed of the offline, which can be shopped online, right? So most of the large brands still have 15% of their stock, which they actually sell in store, available for online. So for them to take images, do that shoots right, so that the customer has some view of it, was a challenge, right? And I think now that is changing, right? So everyone is talking about CDP, everyone's talking about the single view, everyone's talking about the single view of the inventory, right? So the whole retail tech, which I have been pitching for the last 8 years, that this is what you should be doing. Now they're coming back to us and saying that tell us what you've done and can be implemented, right? And like large brands like a Bata, they've really survived through, right? I mean, we've done a lot of work of helping them improve that notch a little bit better. Now the brands have realized that, okay, there's a power of real CRM, and there is a mechanics where if I engage the customer right, I can bring him back, right? So that is happening, and I think it's going to fasten up. That 10-year journey is going to move into 2 years, hopefully.
I get calls now. 10 years back, you gave me the digital transformation proposal. I'm ready to discuss it now. Okay, so Neha, you discussed about, like, we were discussing about what the future looks like, and where do you think companies can collaborate? You mentioned about chatbots and things like that. Would love to know your thoughts on what are the future collaborations we can look at.
Well, I was thinking that a lot of us founder network, so to speak, we collaborate quite a bit on marketing. So, for example, we would be cross-selling Lenskart to our customers, and Lenskart does to their customers similarly. And it's a pretty standardized model, like Peter said, where you combine your marketing and you leverage your user base without being intrusive. And one thing that I think all of us now are doing are building our chatbots, and we are all training our chatbots. And a lot of inputs come different chatbot companies have their modules, and English is pretty much sorted. But India is a unique country. We have so many languages, and a lot of our customers come from tier 2, tier 3. 60% sales are from there. So there's a lot of vernacular conversations happening. And I feel that's where if all of us pool in our, we train the chatbot together, a lot of the inputs that go in can be combined, and because people will have different queries, and of course similar companies with similar e-commerce kind of queries or fashion shopping kind of queries, and we mask the sensitive user information and user data. I think that could be really unique to India.
Yeah. And I think one idea you had, Neha, was about this banking.
Yes. So I was speaking on with the banking team on a panel, and they were asking me what is it that we can do, and I was sharing with it even today with all the so much of with COVID, a lot of people have moved to digital payments, a lot of resistance to cash. Handling of cash has happened, but despite that, 50% of transactions still happen on cash and delivery, and more so in tier 2 and tier 3. So is there something that we can do, e-commerce and banking network, where we bring in especially women in tier 2 and tier 3 and drive that? Right now we have gained the momentum, but sort of push it further and bring those women on digital payments. So from trust point of view, security, also awareness, ease of use. So that's where I think there is scope of collaboration, working together, pool in our marketing resources, and do it.
Yeah, I think that's a opportunity. I think if you ask me, as you said, right, I think a lot of times, even in affluent households, a lot of payments are done by the men. and guilty gets charged in my household also, which is very funny that, it's like finally when Google Pay has to be there, it's like, you would have received a request. I said like, dude, you guys can pay. Why do I have to pay always? No, it's just too much janjat. You guys do it. It's like, so I think that awareness is spread. I think this will actually multiply it significantly, right?
Yes.
Because when there is
women are not used to handling, even if we are gaining financial independence every day, we make our own money and spend our own money, but we don't control our own money. So that control, I think, is still missing. That understanding of money management is missing. And I think that's where there's huge scope. And then brands like us gain, of course.
Yeah, so actually, is extremely successful, extremely wealthy in terms of makes a very, very good pay packet, etc. And she was telling me one day, he said, listen, Vivek, there is this concept. It's basically my money and our money. Very clear. Yes. That's the way money is divided. There is no your money. There is our money with the husband and it's my money. These are way.
Yes, I think if women manage their own money, the personal disposable income, so to speak, that term, I think that will greatly improve. Money that she can spend or my money will greatly improve.
And where the advertising had, I think there is this huge opportunity that, by targeting, because I think this whole model, which I actually discovered, about 9 months back when I started ProfitWheel, like if 20% of the customers give you 200% of the profits, then in many categories, 2% of the customers give you 80-90% of the profits, right? So even if you take India, right, there is this 10 million population that can probably control 90% of consumption in 80%, 90% of the categories in the country, where most of the 70,000 crores is spent. So how do we actually create partnerships with people who have lesser data, but more valuable data, right? Because you may have a Centurion card holder, which is Amex Black. It's only 5,000 customers in India, but that 5,000 people control huge amount of wealth management, high-end banking, luxury real estate, luxury cars, etc. So because the problem with advertising is that most of us agencies make money based on number of people we reach out to, right? And the amount of spends that we do. When you reach out niche audiences, then your spends are very low. You need to figure out how do we actually disrupt that it becomes profitable for both the brand as well as the ecosystem to make money, even targeting smaller number of people. So on this, BD, would love to hear some stories from you, companies you've invested in, or companies that who have been able to strike some interesting collaborations and suddenly change the trajectory of their company substantially. So would love to hear some stories, some thoughts that you've had, people you funded in the past or people you're funding because they had this interesting idea of solving a problem through a collaboration.
Look, I think I would say in all fairness, the collaboration has been probably much more the collaboration of ideas versus the more operational collaboration in terms of ability to execute, right? And what I mean by ideas is like what they just said, right? I'm saying, hey, we have figured this out, how to have a single view of inventory, and how do I then, that's something that every company should be doing, right? And they should have done and would have done and could have done, but now at least they will hopefully do it, right? So I think it's been more collaboration of ideas, and there the powerful ideas have been, to your point, has been especially in marketing, has been how should I think about my audience, and how mass communication do I need to do versus how niche communication to do, right? I think there have been some fascinating collaboration I've seen there, which has completely changed, the trajectory for, some of our companies, like for example, I'm just trying to kind of rewind and go back, and this was the early days of, Vinny Cosmetics, which was a fog brand, and they had made a, big, advertising splash to, build that brand and build the proposition, right? And I remember Darshan Bhai giving some very valuable inputs to many of the companies, which were spending actually a lot of money on Google and Facebook on an absolute amount perspective, right? And I think some of them and it almost kind of said, hey, look, if I'm actually a mass product, to your exact counter, right? Am I, spending too much, on the digital networks, and should I reduce my cost of customer acquisition in a meaningful manner by going mass? And this is not true for many of the companies, but I think in certain cases, they become absolutely true. So two examples where I think two companies picked on the insight and worked very differently. One was HealthCart, which had a brand called Muscle Blaze, and where they actually realized that, look, number of bodybuilders in India is some 3 million. Real serious, people who invest, in looking good. And this is a highly fragmented 3 million, right? It's almost like in every part of the country, there are a set of people who, build this. And I think for them, what they realized very quickly is that they had to find a very niche way to target these customers, right? So it was interesting. So therefore, it was about digital branding, digital marketing, and trying to create digital virality, right, through every means possible, Facebook, WhatsApp, etc. And I remember for a relatively small budget, and I think the budget was maybe $1 million, 5 to 6 crores, and it was like 4-5 years back. I think they managed to dramatically change the positioning and pitch of Muscle Blaze, from what it was to what it is now. And now I think that after they've just built on it. I would say after that, every subsequent campaign has been on building and cementing. But I think the most important thing was they realized that their audience was niche and spread out, and therefore the way to target it had to be different, right? And that was an insight that came from a conversation, right? The complete opposite of that, where somebody who actually said, hey, you know what, actually I need to go mass, and and why am I spending so much in the form of digital and performance marketing, was someone like a paperboard, for example, or someone like who had a much more mass product. And you said, you know what, actually for me the CAC is really low if I go mass. And anyway, my product, to your point, Vivek, there are some products which obviously the wealthy 10 million can consume more, but then there are some products which they can't, right? I think there is a per unit consumption for everybody, and therefore by definition, it comes from having more audience and larger audiences consuming it, right? So for them, therefore, the strategy was very different, saying, how do I go mass, and how do I attack, and how do I make sure that I have a product portfolio that matches the mass requirement, right? Because the product portfolio also matters, if you're going ahead and doing it. So I would say that the collaboration has been much more in the nature of ideas, and therefore completely translated into completely different outcomes. But in both cases, I think you're trying to get to build a strong brand, right? Which is what you are trying to do, which is what you're trying to do as a company. Recently, for example, we had to make a similar decision in one of our investments from A91 called Atomberg. It's a consumer electrical fan, right? And again, suddenly you realize as you're walking through the money that you were spending on various channels, and you suddenly flip the switch and said, hey, you know what? Maybe this year we should spend, I don't know, 70% on TV and see what happens, and see what happens. And we are trying to see what's happening, so we'll see. I don't have the answers to that. But the strong hunch is that suddenly you've hit a scale, and a dense scale in a particular part of India, Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu or Andhra, where your CAC math goes different, and therefore you can start thinking about how to spend your money differently. And I'm sure that is a challenge that Tejas and Neha will be super familiar with, right? Because the single most important P&L item on many companies has become the performance marketing, and you don't want it to scale linearly. So it's effectively a battle between you and the platforms. You don't want to scale it linearly, and they want to scale it linearly. And the only way to fight it is you cannot fight it on the platform. You will fight it by other methods and other channels.
One of our tools that we have, VT, it's actually whichever person has used it, they completely get blown by the power of psychographics of their own audience. So I'll give you an example. You take the first party data in a hash format and you put it into a tool. It tells you the psychographics of your own customers, your high value customers. And we found was that fitness came very, very high affinity for affluent audiences. But when you click on that fitness, it gets divided into marathon running, fitness, and there is this category called bodybuilding. Bodybuilding actually came very, very low affinity for the affluent audiences. So very interesting when you actually come to know that your own audience, what kind of psychographics they have, it completely changes your views, because we were using this for one of our brands in US, and an outdoor enthusiast and a veteran were two different audiences discovered through this tool. So what I've seen is that just understanding what your lookalike looks like for the first time when you see it, it just completely blows your mind, because so many times we think our audience is this. the biggest challenge with these platforms is that it's a black box. So just getting some insights, what your audience looks like, it completely changes the way you look at your audience. Yeah. So
I would, one thing, one observation I think which could be useful for all Indian companies out here is something that I've noticed that in India, technology or technology-based companies or the convenience that we offer to customers here is far more superior to a lot of first world economies. I think VT can tell more about it, but this is my personal experience of speaking to companies outside of India. And one thing that happened post-COVID was that a lot of people from outside of India started to reach out to us, a lot of offline stores, large chains, because they had not built themselves in a way that they could reach the customer inside her home. So now what they want is, and we have endless aisle, we have a complete view of inventory, we have shipping capabilities, we have post-purchase customer handling, everything can build. So now we are scaling profitably outside of India because there are partners who are not able to handle their own handle this COVID situation otherwise. And I think a lot of Indian companies are well placed like us to do this.
Actually, it's a big opportunity because
there's an echo. I think there's an echo.
Okay, is it better now? Yeah, so I think there is this interesting company I came across in UK, the HUD Group, where they built up these 20-30 brands, and then they started partnering with larger brands and take an equity position in those brands. Obviously, it's listed at some £7 billion or something in the UK market. But I think the expertise that all of you guys are building in direct to consumer, I think there are a lot of other companies who require the same expertise in different parts of the world. And I think that expansion can be a very, very good opportunity because it also helps you sell your products more effectively in those markets. That little bit of a sales pitch from my side, we have this very interesting tool. What we've done is called Market Expander. So what it does is it takes your best audiences in one country and then finds you the similar audiences in other countries. So if your Grand Theft Auto is an interest that is have affinity for your product in India, that Grand Theft Auto may not be the same game in Indonesia or in UK. So our neural network actually finds the interest that matches best to Grand Theft Auto and allows you to target those people. But I think the global opportunity of collaboration is something the biggest thing. So just on this note, are there any global opportunities that you've seen for Easy Rewards of replicating what you've done? I think this is a Netcore itself gives you access to 8 countries.
Right.
What are your thoughts on how you can? Okay, before that, Neha, there is one question specifically for you, so which you need to answer, is that they're asking that what has been your experience in delivery? Because delivery is one other area of collaboration you mentioned, especially when people want free delivery or they want to remain anonymous, because of that they're paying cash. Is that the reason for it, and is that been an area of concern or behavior that you've seen in your experience?
Cash on delivery doesn't have much to do with user identity because you anyway leave your data with us. And Clovia from day one has been built where women share a lot of their intimate data. In fact, that remains as our USP and allows us to develop our new products. And customers are quite comfortable doing that with us. I think cash on delivery is a macro kind of a behavior which is impacting us as well. It's not something unique to us. And we offer a lot of, there is a complete discrete delivery, now no mention on the package. In fact, when we return if somebody wants to return also, typically the delivery boy would check what items are inside. But in our case, we've told all our logistic partners that you don't have to check. So the box comes completely closed and there's no embarrassment. So
yeah.
delivery.
I think the cash is, there's a lot of echo.
No, it's fine.
I think the cash thing is, to Neha's point, is more habitual. And I think it is the point that Vivek, you were mentioning. It's about the bank, the UPI, and then the comfort around just manipulating that to be able to do it. I don't think it has anything to do with, and cash is easy actually. It's not so hard, right? So you have to make it easy. UPI is incredibly easy,
Yes.
but you have to make it happen. And it's about the comfort. And some of these cases, it may just be, do they have a bank account? Are they actually operating it? I remember we had done some research, not now, maybe this is like pre-COVID era, 18, 24 months back, and we were shocked that a lot of the women bank accounts still have been operated by typically the male in the family. It could be a son, or it could be a father, it could be a husband, etc. So I feel it is much more to do with in some cases, I know that even the OTP numbers are still going to the mobile phones of their, father or son, which is really odd, right? So therefore, cash is actually independence, because when you say it's my cash, I sell, and that's it, right? So
yeah,
I think it's about habit change. So Neha's right. I think you have to work with the ecosystem to make it.
30% of our database is still male names.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that means women are shopping behind their husbands or whatever partners, some male partners identity.
I think we manage over about 220 million across brands, right from footwear to lingerie and everything under it. And 70% of the data is still male in brands where women are shopping. Right? So like it's 100% women category, and there's still male buyers there, right? So I think it's a normal phenomenon that what happens is the couple goes and buys, and what we've seen, because we've got a lot of interaction with the boss, is that the end payment is done by the guy, right? So and then the girl moves to the other brand or whatever, right? So that is still movement. And to your point, Neha, that once women start getting that financial independence completely, right? My money, my way, my shopping, right? And I think that's where that change will happen, that they will start shopping on their own. So that literacy definitely is a requirement. That financial literacy of how to manage money is a critical factor.
Actually, I was talking to somebody who's heading strategy for one of the largest telecom companies, and they have exactly the same problem, right? We think that they know who the user is, but the same one single person in the house has 5 SIM cards for the entire family, right? So basically, you have no person.
Yeah. So imagine if you cut the data based on the name and the age and the gender, and you'll be like left completely puzzled, and you'll be wondering.
So, yeah. So I think we have about 5 minutes left. What I wanted to basically focus on is that I think this globalization partnership, I think has been an interesting thought discovery, right? Because I think COVID has done where it's made geography into history. Right. And I think that creates a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs to look at globalization of their companies, because we can be in a few cities and actually be present in 100 countries. So would love to have your thoughts, all three of you, on what can Indian entrepreneurs do to expand their businesses outside of Indian shores. Any thoughts you guys have? Would love to hear it.
You want me to start?
Yeah, sure, Tejas.
So I think I think COVID has brought the world much closer, as you rightly said. For us, selling globally was a challenge, because I would have had to travel to that country to sell. For the last 6 months, nobody wants me to travel, right? They said that you be happy in India and tell us what you have, and we are happy to buy. Right? So we've actually closed the largest retailer in Indonesia, sitting from here in the shortest period of time. Right? We are closing another large group in Saudi Arabia, sitting here. Right? So we are able to do that effectively. And the good thing that's happened is that people who never wanted to interact on digital medium are happy to interact and buy, as long as you have a solution which matches, right? So the mechanics to become global is true, and it has become easier for brands to do it. I mean, companies like us, we're loving this moment because my cost of travel is zero. My cost of communication is Zoom calls or Teams, and people are ready to listen, right? And everyone's sitting at home to listen in. So I think this is the right moment for companies to really expand globally. And obviously, now on the collaboration front, what we've done is we work on a partner model, right? So it is easier for us now to create partners without going there, giving the excuse that I anyways cannot travel, and they're happy to see the solution. They're happy to sell it. So if you're able to create the partners in that country. Like for example, we've done in Southeast Asia, we've created 3 partners, one in Indonesia, one in Philippines, and one in Vietnam. And we've given them a target that you can sell on our behalf, like a reseller. And a percentage of that will come to you. But what that is enabling us is we are getting local talent at a cheaper cost and able to penetrate much faster, right? An Indian selling to a Vietnamese is not going to happen, right? You're not going to be able to sell. I tried it on my own and I lost the deal because their thing was you don't know Vietnamese, right? And your content is not in Vietnamese.
Sure. I think, perfect. I think if you ask me, right, I look at my ProfitWheel history. I started the company, raised capital, hired my co-founder, built my team. Everything was on Zoom, right? You asked me a year ago, it would have been impossible to even imagine. And I'm looking at, private equity also. People have started and closed funds where the entire road trip has been missing, right? It was been that entire thing is done. So, VT, what are your views where you are looking at companies in your portfolio who basically have suddenly, a year ago, 2 years ago, global was not even a part of it because India is such a huge market. But now there is immediately an opportunity of probably growing internationally, whether it's through collaboration or because of post-COVID.
So look, I think the opportunity set is certainly opened up, to Tejas's point, but there's also a bit of the healthy tension in the room, because what you're also seeing that some of the changes in India are also happening quite rapidly, and therefore there is this pressing question of, do you press home the advantage, right? Especially if you are like one of those companies which have been a bit more digitally savvy, digitally ahead compared to competition, which is often true in many of the companies we end up backing. Then you're saying, should I press home the advantage here? Because you know that the people will catch up, right? Like in sugar, for example, I'm saying clearly more digitally first enabled than some of the other makeup companies, historical companies in India. Or if you take Attenberg in France, again, same question, right? So I think it's been a healthy balance, I would say. And in some cases, we have plumped for saying, hey, let's just press home the advantage. Because especially where the Indian market size is not a constraint. So the framework that we have kind of shared with companies is saying, look, they have a sense of what the market is, real addressable market, not the billion people multiplied by $0.50 or $1, a real market. And then go back and say, if that is not the case, then absolutely, I think the new markets have opened. And if we can prioritize some of those markets, and can you do a good job there? I think the question that we always say in exports or in globalization is we say, look, what is important is whatever market you're attacking, you attack and you become a very meaningful player. Do not be a marginal player in multiple markets, because that usually historically doesn't either builds franchise value nor equity value. So pick your markets, and the picking can be on the back of, otherwise, it can become very opportunistic. So I said, pick your markets and try to make sure that in that you can do a really good job. And really good job usually means can you be top 3 or top 5 player. If you can't be, then then why go?
Yeah, Neha, your thoughts on internationalization, globalization of Clovia as an example. You're on mute. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I also fell off. Actually, I must share this. We have a very unique situation in our household, a founder's household, where both of us have forgotten to top up our electricity meter, but all 4 of our Wi-Fis are working. So therefore I keep falling on and off. Okay, so so in a way, actually, VT, you said it tends to be opportunistic, and that's what possibly happened with us, where an opportunity presented itself from all these first world markets, and especially in Middle East, like Saudi, even Tejas spoke of, where retail chains were not really prepared to offer that sort of experience that Indian companies do to their customers. So I think that's where suddenly a big market opened up for us. We had the product, we had the technology, we had the know-how how to do this. So I think that's like a big opportunity for us. What I'm looking now to collaborate with other Indian companies is figure out a warehousing solution, because it's still expensive to warehouse in those areas. And even though there somehow the customer is comfortable getting their deliveries after 5 to 7 days, but I think we are not comfortable, because we have that Indian mindset ki abhi 24 hours mein chahiye, 48 hours mein. So I think so we are trying to build up warehousing capabilities and possibly share it with other brands. So then we all share expenses, and because the operation size of operations will not warrant a full-fledged warehouse right in the beginning.
So, Neha, I'll connect you to this company called Flow.io. I think it's a very interesting company. It's at this point in time, they are more suited for luxury space, because the CAC then makes sense in new countries. But it's a very interesting company because they do logistics, and they have, I think, that shared warehousing solution globally would be a huge advantage. I think that itself is an opportunity.
Yeah, e-commerce warehousing for a multi-SKU mass premium kind of a mass brand is different, and therefore I said that we need that Indian way of handling things there.
No, I think this is you think about it, I think there's somebody will have to do it. This warehousing, which is shared warehousing across 100 countries, where all the hundreds of brands can come together and share it. And I think we definitely looks like an opportunity, because a lot of brands are going to go global. Because sometimes what happens is, VD, you exhaust that audience, right? You take luxury in India, you'll exhaust it pretty quickly. So the only way to grow your business is going to be to grow into other countries. So I think in some FMCG companies, obviously India is a huge opportunity, but I think that it's going to be a opportunity for luxury, because right now there aren't too many luxury brands out of India. And as we start building these D2C brands, some of them will have to expand globally. I don't think we have much of a choice. Thanks a lot, my friends. VT, Neha, Tejas, this was a very, very interesting discussion. And this is, once it's recorded and goes live, I will share with you. And all the audiences, please take a quick poll that we have on your screen. But I think the host and the panelists cannot vote, so we can't give ourselves 10 on 10. So the rest of us, please vote. And thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Keep in touch. Yeah, thanks, Archie, for organizing everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Bye.
much for joining.